The autumn rain drummed against the windows of the small art gallery as Celeste Moreau carefully arranged the paintings for the evening exhibition. Her delicate fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted the frame of her latest watercolor, not from the cold, but from the anxiety that had been consuming her for weeks. At 22, she possessed an ethereal beauty that drew admirers wherever she went. With her cascading chestnut curls and expressive violet eyes that seemed to hold secrets of their own, the gallery door chimed, and her guardian, Robert Moreau, entered, his usually composed demeanor replaced by visible distress. His salt and pepper hair was disheveled, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. Robert had been her protector since her parents perished in a tragic accident when she was 16, treating her like the daughter he never had. "Celeste, we need to talk," he said, his voice carrying a weight that made her stomach clench with dread. She turned from the painting, immediately sensing something was terribly wrong. "What's happened? You look awful." Robert collapsed into one of the antique chairs scattered throughout the gallery, his hands shaking as he ran them through his hair. "I've made a terrible mistake, my dear. The worst kind of mistake a man can make." The color drained from Celeste's face as she approached him cautiously. "Tell me." "The gambling," he whispered, the words barely audible. "I thought I could win it back. I kept telling myself, just one more hand, one more race, one more chance to make everything right. But I was wrong, so terribly wrong." Celeste's knees nearly gave out as the implications hit her. She had known about Robert's occasional trips to the casino, but she had never imagined it had become something so serious. "How much?" $3.5 million. The number fell between them like a death sentence. The gallery suddenly felt too small, the air too thin. Celeste gripped the back of a chair to steady herself. $3.5 million. "Robert, how could you gamble away that much money? They said they would kill us both if I don't pay within 2 weeks." Robert continued, his voice breaking. "These aren't ordinary creditors, Celeste. These are dangerous people who don't accept excuses or payment plans." The billionaire's proposal before Celeste could process the full horror of their situation. The gallery door opened again, this time admitting a man who commanded attention simply by existing. Julian Blackwood stood 6 feet 2 inches tall, with midnight black hair and piercing, steel-gray eyes that seemed to see straight through to a person's soul. His perfectly tailored charcoal suit probably cost more than most people earned in a year, and he moved with the confident grace of someone accustomed to owning every room he entered. "Mr. Moreau," Julian said, his deep voice carrying a slight accent that suggested expensive education and world travel. "I trust you've had time to consider my proposition." Celeste looked between the two men, confusion mixing with growing dread. "What proposition?" Julian's intense gaze shifted to her, and she felt as though she was being examined under a microscope. There was something predatory in the way he studied her, yet she detected no malice, only a hunger that made her skin flush with unexpected warmth. "Allow me to introduce myself properly," Julian said, offering her a slight bow that seemed both respectful and possessive. "Julian Blackwood. I'm a technology entrepreneur with interests in various industries." "He owns half the tech companies in Silicon Valley," Robert interjected quietly. "And he's willing to pay all my debts." "In exchange for what?" Celeste asked, though her heart was already pounding with the terrible certainty that she knew the answer. Julian stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne and feel the heat radiating from his powerful frame. "In exchange for your hand in marriage, Miss Moreau." The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Celeste stared at him, certain she had misheard. "My what?" "I've been watching you for months," Julian continued, his voice surprisingly gentle, despite the shocking nature of his proposal. "I attended your exhibition last spring, and I haven't been able to get you out of my mind since. You have something that's incredibly rare in my world." "What's that?" she whispered. "Innocence. Genuine kindness. You look at people like they matter, not like they're stepping stones to something better." Julian's eyes never left her face. "I'm 35 years old, and I've never met a woman who wanted me for anything other than my money. But you don't even know who I am, do you?" Celeste shook her head mutely. She lived a simple life, focused on her art and her small circle of friends. The world of billionaire tech moguls might as well have been another planet. I'm offering you security, protection, and the freedom to pursue your art without ever worrying about money again," Julian continued. "In return, I'm asking you to give our marriage a chance. Not love at first sight, just a chance to see what might develop between us." "The impossible choice, this is insane," Celeste said, backing away from both men. "People don't just buy wives in the 21st century. They do when those wives are in desperate situations," Julian replied matter-of-factly. "I'm not asking you to fall in love with me immediately. I'm asking you to marry me, and let me try to earn your affection over time." Robert stood up shakily. "Celeste, these loan sharks will kill us both if I don't pay. Julian is offering us a way out. By selling me like cattle," she snapped, her artistic temperament finally overriding her shock. "By offering you a partnership," Julian corrected calmly. "I have a prenuptial agreement drawn up that guarantees you $15 million and a house of your choice if our marriage doesn't work out for any reason. You would never have to worry about money again, regardless of what happens between us." The number was so astronomical that Celeste couldn't even comprehend it. She had never had more than a few $1,000s to her name at any given time. "Why me?" she asked desperately. "You could have any woman you want." Julian's expression softened slightly. "Because every woman I've ever met has wanted Julian Blackwood, the billionaire. I want to find out what it's like to be wanted for myself, not my bank account. And you're the first woman I've met who might actually be capable of that." Celeste looked at Robert, who was watching her with desperate hope in his eyes. This man had sacrificed so much to raise her, had given her a home and love when she had nothing. Now, he was asking her to save them both in the only way available. "How long do I have to decide?" she asked quietly. "The wedding is in 3 days," Julian replied. "I've taken the liberty of making all the arrangements, pending your agreement. 3 days to decide whether to marry a complete stranger, or watch the only family she had left die at the hands of criminals. 3 days to choose between her freedom and their lives. I need time to think," Celeste said finally. Julian nodded and handed her an elegant business card. "My private number. Call me when you've made your decision." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "For what it's worth, Miss Moreau, I would never force you into anything you truly couldn't bear. This offer comes with respect, not coercion." After he left, Celeste sank into a chair, her mind reeling with the impossible choice before her. 3 days later, Celeste stood before an ornate mirror in the bridal suite of the most exclusive hotel in the city, hardly recognizing the woman staring back at her. The wedding dress Julian had chosen was a masterpiece of ivory silk and French lace, fitted to her body as though it had been crafted specifically for her curves. The seamstresses had worked around the clock to ensure perfection, and the result was breathtaking. Her chestnut hair had been styled in an elegant updo with delicate pearl pins, and her makeup enhanced her natural beauty without overpowering her delicate features. She looked like a fairy tale princess, but she felt like a sacrifice being prepared for an altar. "You look absolutely radiant," said Helena, the wedding coordinator Julian had hired. "Mr. Blackwood has exquisite taste." Celeste's hands trembled as she held her bouquet of white roses and baby's breath. In 30 minutes, she would walk down the aisle to marry a man she had spoken to only twice. The chapel Julian had chosen was small and intimate, with just a handful of witnesses present. When the music began and the doors opened, Celeste saw Julian waiting for her at the altar, looking devastatingly handsome in his black tuxedo. But it was the expression on his face that took her breath away. He was looking at her as though she was the most precious thing he had ever seen, with a mixture of awe and something that looked suspiciously like genuine affection. As she walked down the aisle, their eyes met and held. Julian's usual confident demeanor seemed to crack slightly, revealing vulnerability underneath. When she reached him, he took her hand with surprising gentleness. "You're beautiful," he whispered, so quietly that only she could hear. The ceremony passed in a blur of words and promises. When it came time for their first kiss as husband and wife, Julian cupped her face in his hands and pressed his lips to hers with tender reverence rather than possessive demand. The kiss was soft, warm, and filled with promise rather than pressure, The penthouse. Julian's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a luxury building overlooking the city. As they entered their new home together, Celeste was overwhelmed by the sophisticated elegance of the space. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views, and every piece of furniture seemed chosen with impeccable taste. "Would you like some champagne?" Julian asked, loosening his tie as he moved to the bar. "I don't really drink," Celeste admitted, feeling out of place in her elaborate gown among such luxury. "Neither do I." Usually, Julian smiled, and she was struck by how much younger he looked when he relaxed. "How about some tea? I have an excellent English breakfast blend." They sat together on the plush sofa, still in their wedding attire, sipping tea and talking quietly. Julian asked about her art, her favorite books, her dreams for the future. He was an attentive listener, asking thoughtful questions that showed he was genuinely interested in her answers. "Julian," Celeste said finally, "what do you expect from me tonight?" He set down his teacup and turned to face her fully. "I expect nothing, Celeste. This marriage may have been arranged out of necessity, but I meant what I said about earning your affection. I won't take anything you're not ready to give." "But we're married now," she said softly. "Aren't there certain expectations?" Julian's gray eyes darkened slightly. "There are things I want, yes. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. But wanting something and taking it are two different things entirely." The first touched something in his restraint. In the careful way he held himself back, despite the obvious desire in his eyes, made Celeste's heart flutter. She had expected him to claim his husbandly rights immediately, but instead he was treating her like something precious and fragile. "What if I said I wanted to try?" she whispered, her cheeks flushing pink. Julian went completely still. "Try what, exactly?" "Being your wife. Really being your wife." Her voice was barely audible, but he heard every word. "Celeste," he said carefully, "you don't have to do anything to please me. I don't want gratitude or obligation. If something happens between us, I want it to be because you truly want it." "I think I do want it," she admitted, surprising herself with her honesty. "You've been nothing but kind to me, and I've been thinking about what it would be like." Julian's control visibly slipped for a moment. "What it would be like to what?" "To be held by you. To be kissed by you properly. Not just the polite kiss from the ceremony." She looked up at him through her lashes. "To be loved by you. With infinite care." Julian reached out and cupped her cheek in his large hand. "Are you certain? Because once we cross this line, everything changes." Instead of answering with words, Celeste leaned into his touch, and then pressed her lips to his. This time, the kiss was nothing like their ceremonial peck. It was deep and searching, filled with curiosity and growing passion. Julian's arms came around her, pulling her closer as the kiss intensified. His hands tangled in her carefully styled hair, sending pearl pins scattering to the floor as her chestnut curls tumbled free. "So beautiful," he murmured against her lips. "I've been dreaming about this moment since I first saw you." Celeste felt bold in a way she never had before. "Show me," she whispered. "Show me what you've been dreaming about." The bedroom. Julian swept Celeste into his arms, carrying her to the master bedroom as though she weighed nothing at all. The room was elegant and masculine, dominated by a king-sized bed with luxurious linens and soft lighting that cast everything in a romantic glow. He set her down gently beside the bed, his hands trembling slightly as he reached for the delicate buttons on the back of her wedding dress. "Tell me if you want me to stop," he said, his voice rough with barely controlled desire. "I don't want you to stop," Celeste replied, meeting his gaze directly. "I want to belong to you completely." The words seemed to unlock something primal in Julian. His careful restraint slipped as he helped her out of the elaborate gown, revealing the silk lingerie underneath. His breath caught as he took in the sight of her, beautiful and trusting, and giving herself to him willingly. "You're perfect," he breathed, his hand skimming over her skin with reverent touches. "More beautiful than I ever imagined." When Celeste began unbuttoning his shirt with shaking fingers, Julian caught her hands gently. "We don't have to rush this. We have all night, all the time in the world. I've waited 22 years for this moment," she said softly. "I don't want to wait anymore." Julian's control finally shattered completely. He kissed her with passionate intensity, his hands exploring every inch of her soft skin as she melted against him. When he lifted her onto the bed, she looked up at him with complete trust and growing desire. "I'll be gentle," he promised, settling beside her. "Tell me what you like, what feels good." "I don't know," Celeste admitted with a shy smile. "You'll have to teach me." The teaching. Julian took his time, worshipping her body with patient kisses and gentle caresses. He showed her pleasures she had never imagined, bringing her to the edge of ecstasy again and again, before finally making her his completely. When they joined together for the first time, Celeste gasped at the intensity of the sensation. Julian held perfectly still, giving her time to adjust, whispering sweet reassurances in her ear. "How does it feel?" he asked, his voice strained with the effort of holding back. "Like coming home," she whispered, and she meant it. Despite the unusual circumstances of their marriage, being with Julian felt right in a way nothing else ever had. They moved together slowly at first, learning each other's rhythms and responses. As Celeste grew more confident, their passion intensified until they were lost in each other completely, crying out their pleasure without inhibition. The morning after, Celeste woke in Julian's arms as dawn light filtered through the windows. She felt transformed, no longer the innocent girl who had walked down the aisle the day before. Julian was already awake, watching her with an expression of such tenderness that it took her breath away. "Good morning, Mrs. Blackwood," he said softly, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Good morning, husband," she replied, loving the sound of the words. "Do you regret it?" Julian asked, vulnerability creeping into his voice. "Never," Celeste said firmly, reaching up to touch his cheek. "Last night was the most beautiful experience of my life." Julian's relief was visible. "I love you," he said simply. "I know it's too soon. I know this whole situation is complicated, but I can't help how I feel." "I love you too," Celeste admitted, surprising herself with the truth of it. "I think I started falling in love with you the moment you were kind to me instead of demanding. You could have taken anything you wanted, but instead, you gave me a choice." The future over the following months, their marriage blossomed into something neither of them had dared hope for. Julian supported Celeste's artistic career, arranging gallery showings and never missing an opening night. Celeste brought warmth and joy into Julian's previously cold and lonely world. Their physical connection only grew stronger with time. Julian was a generous and passionate lover, always putting Celeste's pleasure before his own. Their bedroom became a sanctuary where they could express their love without restraint, finding new ways to bring each other to heights of ecstasy. A year after their wedding, as they lay entwined after another night of passionate lovemaking, Julian made a confession that completed their journey. "I want you to know something," he said, stroking her hair as she rested against his chest. "Robert's debts. I paid them off the day after I first saw you. The danger was never real." Celeste lifted her head to look at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I fell in love with you at first sight, and I would have done anything to win your heart, but I wanted you to choose me freely, so I gave Robert a way out that wouldn't make you feel trapped. So this whole time, you could have walked away whenever you wanted," Julian confirmed. "You stayed because you chose to stay, because you fell in love with me too." Celeste smiled, her heart overflowing with love for this complex, wonderful man who had given her everything she never knew she wanted. "I would choose you again, every single day, and I would move heaven and earth to deserve that choice," Julian replied, sealing his promise with a kiss that tasted of forever. Their love story had begun with necessity, but had transformed into something pure and true, proving that sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the greatest happiness. The shy virgin bride had found her courage in love, and the lonely billionaire had discovered that the most precious things in life could never be bought, only earned through devotion, patience, and the willingness to put someone else's happiness above your own. Continue for more passionate tales of love and desire.